The night was closing in on the secret laboratory, whispers of mystery enveloping it like a dark cloak. Dr. Sebastian Caine, a brilliant molecular biologist with overflowing ambition, worked frantically, his eyes dazzled by the glow of the monitor. He had been devoted to his project for 4 years, an invisibility serum for the US military and a means to reverse its effects. The laboratory, isolated and jealously protected, was his sanctuary, accessible only to him and his loyal team. The subject of his most recent experiment, Isabelle, an imposing female gorilla, remained hidden in the shadows of a cage. Caine, exhausted but relentless, was reconfiguring the molecular model of the irradiated protein that would restore Isabelle's visibility. In an electrifying twist, his mind fit the pieces of the molecular puzzle together. Euphoria flooded him as he informed his team of the great breakthrough, his voice trembling with emotion. However, despite the relentless pace of his research, Caine could not escape the shadow of his obsession with his ex-girlfriend, Linda McKay. Linda, another brilliant scientist on the team, had found solace in the arms of Matt Kensington, another member of the group. Sebastian, blind to his feelings, was unaware of this silent betrayal. The experiment with Isabelle was carried out with overwhelming success, the atmosphere charged with tension and anticipation. To celebrate the monumental achievement, the team headed to a dinner, their faces illuminated by the promise of a future full of astonishing discoveries. Sebastian raised his glass, his voice resonating with unyielding fervor as he toasted to the best scientific team in the world, an ominous glint in his eyes, promising that the impossible was within their reach. The days passed in a vortex of tension and overflowing expectations. The research team, on edge, eagerly awaited the longed-for permission to begin human trials. However, fear and paranoia took hold of Sebastian. The fear that the military would seize his precious discovery led him to make a reckless decision. With calculated coldness, Sebastian shamelessly lied to the Oversight Committee. Even to his mentor, Dr. Howard Kramer, he assured that he still needed more time, hiding the truth of his success. Megalomania and the desire for glory led him to a point of no return. He decided to test the serum on himself, despite the outright disapproval of his team. The night of the test, the atmosphere was charged with an unsettling mix of awe and terror. After a process riddled with difficulties and errors, the procedure was a success. But the price of invisibility was high. 17 hours later, Sebastian woke up engulfed in agonizing pain, realizing with horror that he could see through his own eyelids. What began as a scientific achievement turned into a descent into madness. For 3 days, he explored the advantages and disadvantages of his new condition, experiencing a freedom that bordered on the sinister. But the euphoria quickly faded when the time came to reverse the process. The experiment, far from restoring his visibility, almost killed him, plunging him into a spiral of despair and panic. The line between genius and madness blurred with each step he took in his new and terrifying reality. The question that lingered in the air was, how far would he go in his pursuit of power and control? The atmosphere in the laboratory was becoming increasingly oppressive. The team, in a desperate attempt to maintain the appearance of normalcy, constructed a latex mask for Sebastian, a grotesque imitation of a human face. Meanwhile, Matt, with a spark of hope, discovered a possible solution to restore Sebastian's visibility. However, Sebastian's excessive ego led him to believe that Matt had dark intentions, and his paranoia was unleashed. Isolation and the feeling of being trapped began to erode Sebastian's sanity. Disobeying Carter's orders, he returned to his apartment, where, in an act of perversion, he spied on and physically assaulted the neighbor. The line between genius and monster was becoming increasingly blurred. Back in the lab, the team planned to confront him. Linda, with a mix of fear and determination, warned him that if he went out again, she and Matt would report him to Kramer. But Sebastian, blinded by his own madness, did not listen to them. He used the laboratory equipment to create a thermal recording, deceiving Frank and making him believe he was still in the lab while he spied on Linda and Matt. Sebastian's fury reached its peak upon discovering the relationship between Linda and Matt. In a fit of rage, he killed a dog that had also been subjected to the invisibility serum. The situation was becoming increasingly dangerous. Desperate, Linda and Matt went to Kramer's house and confessed everything. Kramer, disappointed and furious, dismissed them and prepared to inform the military. But Sebastian, always one step ahead, had followed them. In a final act of madness, he drowned Kramer in his own pool, sealing his fate and that of everyone involved in his dark experiment. The spiral of terror and madness seemed never-ending. What else would Sebastian be willing to do in his quest for absolute power? The tension in the laboratory was reaching its peak. The next day, Sebastian, with calculated coldness, disabled the phones and all the elevator codes except his own. Deprived of his clothes and latex mask, he became invisible and began his hunt. Janice, lagging behind, was the first victim, strangled with intravenous tubes. Linda, Matt, Sarah, Carter, and Frank quickly understood the gravity of the situation. They knew that Sebastian, fearing being betrayed, planned to eliminate them all. They took refuge in the laboratory, while Matt and Carter, armed with tranquilizers and thermal goggles, tried to catch him in the empty corridors. Matt shouted a heat signal, only to discover it was a steam vent. As he turned, he saw Carter being drowned by Sebastian, who threw him towards a jagged edge, injuring him severely. Sebastian almost killed Matt, but Linda intervened just in time. Sarah and Frank found Carter, almost unconscious and seriously injured. Desperate, Sarah went to the freezer in search of blood for a transfusion, ignoring Frank's warnings. There, Sebastian was waiting for her. In a desperate attempt, Sarah sprayed blood all over the room, making it visible. But Sebastian, relentless, hit her and shot her with her own tranquilizer dart. With Sarah sedated, he broke her neck, plunging the team into an abyss of terror and despair. Sebastian's hunt had turned into a living nightmare. What other horrors awaited them in their quest for survival? The atmosphere in the laboratory was becoming increasingly stifling. Linda and Matt, desperate, found Frank waiting for the transfusion, only to witness Carter's tragic death. With renewed determination, Linda joined them in the search for Sarah. Upon reaching the freezer, horror enveloped them as they found Sarah's lifeless body in the freezing chamber. Frank, in a desperate attempt to expose Sebastian, opened the gas of a fire extinguisher. But Sebastian, relentless, killed him with a crowbar and then stabbed Matt, though without affecting his vital organs. With chilling coldness, Sebastian locked Linda and Matt in the freezer, adjusting the temperature to condemn them to a slow death by hypothermia. While Sebastian made sure to look almost human with his latex mask and clothes, Linda, with a superficial wound bandaged with adhesive tape, was devising a way to escape. With ingenuity and desperation, she built an electromagnet using a defibrillator and other laboratory materials, managing to open the freezer door. He lit a fire to warm Matt and gathered the necessary pieces to improvise a flamethrower. The struggle for survival intensified, and terror loomed over them like an unrelenting shadow. The tension reached its peak. Sebastian, in an act of desperation, created nitroglycerin in the laboratory with the intention of blowing it up. He placed the explosive in a centrifuge, started a timer, and destroyed the keyboard, ensuring it couldn't be stopped. Just as he was about to escape in the elevator, Linda appeared and shot the flamethrower at him. The latex mask and Sebastian's clothes began to burn, and he barely managed to escape the flames. Linda, resourceful, used the flamethrower to activate the ceiling sprinklers, making Sebastian visible. The two engaged in a fierce struggle. Sebastian, in a desperate attempt, strangled Linda, but Matt appeared and hit him with the same crowbar he had been stabbed with. Sebastian got up to counterattack, but after a brief battle, he was electrocuted. The electricity coursed through his body, partially revealing his muscles, bones, and organs, while his skin and hair remained invisible. Linda and Matt, aware of the imminent nitro explosion, decided to leave the laboratory by climbing up the elevator shaft. Just as the laboratory was exploding, they tried to escape, but Sebastian appeared once more. In a final struggle, Sebastian gave Linda one last kiss, a twisted gesture from their former relationship. Linda, with determination, struck the support of the loose cable while holding on to the elevator cable, sending Sebastian into the burning laboratory. Finally, Linda and Matt managed to get out and were attended to by the paramedics. The nightmare was over, but the scars of the experience would remain with them forever.